What's up? All right, so hopefully everything's working all right. Um, just here by myself. I thought I'd stream. I was gonna read some scripture again. I thought about going back to Genesis, but for some reason I just wanted to read Ecclesiastes. I've already like a lot of people know probably. I said before I tried to read it once a week. I don't always do that, but most of the time I'm able to. I've already read it once this week, but I was thinking about so I could read. Because what I think I'll do is I'll just read through until if anyone wants to listen, if you want, write down notes while I'm reading. If you got comments, then probably throw the link in afterwards, in case anyone wants to talk about it. So just remember what things spark your interest. If no one wants to hop in afterwards, I might just end the stream. But I don't know why. I just thought, heck, I'll read this one again because I can always hear it over and over and over. Like I've said before, I really think it changes. It kind of has a way of bypassing your thought processes and kind of changing you from the inside. But um, I may try to read. I'll probably switch back and forth. I do this a lot. I'd have, but I'll probably try to say Abel because most people know that name more than Hevel. I guess is how you say it with the H. But so I might go back and forth. Anyway, I was gonna thought about reading Esther because Easter's coming up. But then I may try to do that because I'll be out of the country on Easter, but maybe I'll be able to do that again beforehand. I don't know. I don't know if people will enjoy these sort of things of me reading scripture, but whatever. I'm gonna do it anyway because I need to do it, and I just think it's super interesting. And I don't know the thing. It might be kind of dry and dull to listen through to it, but it's so interlinked and the scripture is so like woven together and it constantly references itself. So the thing is if you actually can listen to audio versions of it, you'll notice where it connects. Like you'll hear something and it'll be like, oh, that reminds me of this over here. That happens to me all the time. One thing I used to do is I would put the Bible audio when I'd be driving on long drives, and I just put it on shuffle, and so I'd hear like it would do one chapter, then shuffle, then another chapter, and so it's weird how much it relates here and there. But anyways, I'm just gonna read it. So the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Hevel of Hevel, says the preacher. Hevel of Hevel, all is able. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? Generation passes away and generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. All rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from where the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be, and that which is done it will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of the former things, nor will there be any remembrance of those things that are to come by those who will come after. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven, this burdensome task which God has given to the sons of men, by which they may be exercised. Oh, sorry. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is able in grasping the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. So I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness. I have gained wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is grasping for the wind, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this also is hell. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made my works great. I built myself houses. I planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards and planted all fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants. I had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the special treasures of kings and of provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed, all was able and grasping for the wind, no profit under the sun. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what the man who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head. The fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceive that the same event happens to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why then was I more wise? This also is this also is vanity. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than the fool forever, since all that will now be is forgotten in the days to come. And how does the wise die? As the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me. For all is able and grasping for the wind. All is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. Who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will rule over all my labor in which I have toiled, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This also is hevel. Therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I have toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill. Yes, he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is hevel and a great evil. For what has man for all his labor, and the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is hevel. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy the good of all his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who can have enjoyment more than I? For who can have enjoyment more without him? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight, but to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give good before God. This also is hevel, and grasping for the wind. To everything there is a season, for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, time of peace. What profit has the worker from that in which he labors? I have seen the God given task with which the sons of men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. He has also set the world in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. I know that nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that whatever God does, it shall be forever, and nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. God does that men should fear before him. That which is has already been, and that which is to be has already been, and God requires an account of what is past. Moreover, I saw under the sun, in the place of judgment, wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, iniquity was there. I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in my heart concerning the condition of the sons of men, God tests them that they may see that they themselves are animals. For what happens to the sons of men also happens to animals. One thing befalls them, as one dies, so dies the other. Surely they all have one breath. Man has no advantage over animals, for all is hevel. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and all return to dust. Who knows whether the spirit of the sons of men goes upward, or whether the spirit of the animal which goes down to the earth? So I perceive that nothing is better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his heritage. For who can bring him to what will happen after him? Then I returned and considered all the oppression that is done under the sun. And look, the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter, on the side of their oppressor's power, but they have no comforter. Therefore I praise the dead who are already dead, more than the living who are still alive. Yet better than both is he who has never existed, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. Again, I saw that for all toil and every skillful work, a man is envied by his neighbor. This also is Hevel grasping for the wind. The fool folds his hand and consumes his own flesh. Better a handful with quietness than both hands full, together with toil and grasping for the wind. Then I turned and I saw Hevel under the sun. I saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone without companion. He has neither son nor brother, yet there is no end of all his labor. Nor is his eye satisfied with riches, but he never asked, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? This also is Hevel and a grave misfortune. Two are better than one, because they have good reward for their labor. If they fall, one will lift up his companion, but woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one be warm? Though two Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Better a poor and wise youth than an old foolish king who will be admonished no more, for he comes out of prison to be king, although he was born poor in his kingdom. I saw all the living who walk under the sun. They were with the second youth who stands in his place. No end of all the people over whom he was made king. Yet those who come afterward will not rejoice in him. Surely this also Hevel and grasping for the wind. Walk prudently when you go to the house of God, and draw near to hear rather than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they do evil. Do not be rash with your mouth. Let not your heart utter anything hastily before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice by many words. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to pay it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you have vowed. Better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say to the messenger that it was an error, nor say to the angel that it was an error. For why should God be angry with your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words, also Hevel, but fear God. If you see the oppression of the poor and the violent perversion of justice and righteousness in a province, do not marvel at the matter. For high official watches over high official, and higher official are over them. What is king? For higher than the highest regardeth, and they are higher than they. Moreover, the profit of the land is for all. Even the king is served from the field. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also Hevel. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owner except to see with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. There is severe evil which I have seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner to his own hurt, but those riches perish through misfortune. When he begets a son, there is nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, naked shall he return, to go as he came, and he may take nothing from his labor which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a severe evil. Just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has labored for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness, and has much sorrow and sickness and anger. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting to eat and drink, and enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun, all the days of his life which God for that is his heritage. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth, and given him power to eat of it, to rejoice, to receive his heritage, and rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom God has given riches and honor, so that he lacks nothing for himself of all he desires, yet God does not give him power to eat of it, but a foreigner consumes it. This Hevel and an evil affliction. This is vanity and an evil affliction. If a man be 100 and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with goodness, or indeed he has no burial, I say a stillborn child is better than he. For it comes vanity, comes in Hevel, comes in Abel, and departs in darkness, and its name is covered with darkness. Though it has not seen the sun or known anything, this has more rest than that man. Even if he lives 1,000 years twice, but has not seen goodness, do not all go to one place? All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the soul is not satisfied. For what more has the wise than the fool? What does the poor man have who knows to walk before the living? Better in the sight of the eyes than the wandering of desire. This also Hevel in grasping for the wind. Whatever one is, he has been named, for it is known that he is manned, and cannot contend with him who is mightier than he. Since there are many things that increase Hevel, that increase vanity, how is man the better? Whatever one is, he has been named already, for it is known that he is Adam, and he cannot contend with him who is mightier than he. Since there are many things that increase Hevel, that increase Abel, how is Adam the better? For who knows what is good for Adam in life? Days of his able life, which he passes like a shadow. Who can tell Adam what will happen after the sun, after him under the sun? A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death, the day of one's birth. Better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sad countenance the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, and the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools, for like the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of a fool. This also is Hevel. Surely oppression destroys a wise reason, and a bribe debases the heart. The end of a thing is better than its beginning, and the patient in spirit than the proud in spirit. Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Do not say, why were the former days better than these? For you do not inquire wisely concerning this. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, and profitable to those who see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, as money is a defense. But the excellence of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to those who have it. Consider the work of God, for who can make straight what he has made crooked? In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider. Surely God has appointed one as well as the other, so that man can find out nothing after him under the sun. I have seen everything in my days of vanity, everything in my days of Hevel. There is a just who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked who prolongs in his wickedness. Do not be overly righteous, nor be overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be overly wicked, nor be foolish. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you grasp this. And also, do not remove your hand from the other, for he who fears God will escape them all. Wisdom strengthens the wise more than 10 rulers of the city. For there is not a just man on earth who does good and does not sin. Also, do not take to your heart everything people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. For many times also your own heart has known that even you have cursed others. All this I have proved by wisdom. I said, "Oh, be wise," but it was far from me. All this I have proved by wisdom. I said, "Oh, be wise," but it was far from me. All this I have proved by wisdom. I said, "Oh, be wise," but it was far from me. As for that which is far off and exceedingly deep, who can find it out? I applied my heart to know, to search and seek out the wisdom, to search and seek out wisdom and the reason of things, to know the wickedness, folly, even the foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, whose hands are bands and fetters. He who pleases God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be trapped by her. Here is what I have found, says the preacher. One thing to the adding one thing to the other to find out the reason, which my soul still seeks, but I cannot find. One man among 1,000 I have found, but a woman among all these I have not found. Truly, this only I have found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. Who is like a wise man, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his shine, and the sternness of his face is changed. I keep the king's commandment for the sake of your oath to God. Do not be hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand for an evil thing, for he does whatever pleases him. Or the word of a king, power. And who may say to him, what are you doing? He who keeps his command will experience nothing harmful. And a wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment, because for every matter there is a time and a judgment, though the misery of man increases greatly. For he does not know what will happen, so who can tell him when it will occur? No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit, and no one has power in the day of death. There is no release from that war, and wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. All this I have seen and applied my heart to every work that is done under the sun. There is a time in which one man rules over another to his own hurt. Then I saw the wicked buried who had come and gone from the place of holiness, and they were forgotten, and they were praised in the city where they had so done. This also Hevel, because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore, the hearts of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. Though a sinner does evil 100, and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know that it will be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, nor will he prolong days as a shadow, because he does not fear before God. There is a hevel, a vanity, which occurs on earth, that there are just, and it happens according to the work of the righteous. Again, there are just, that there are just who have. There, there is vanity which occurs on earth, that there are just whom it happens according to the work of the wicked. Again, there are wicked to whom it happens according to the work of the righteous. I said this also is hevel, so I commend an enjoyment, because a man has nothing better under the sun than to eat, drink, and be merry. For this will remain with him in his liver the days of his life. God gives him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, even though one sees no sleep day or night, then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. For though man labors to discover, he will not find. Moreover, though a wise attempts to know, he will not be able to find. For I considered all this in my heart, so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise in their works are in the hand of God. People know neither love nor hatred by anything before them. All things alike to all. One event to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the bad, the clean, and the unclean. To him who sacrifices, and him who does not sacrifice. As the good, so the sinner. He who takes an oath, as he who fears an oath. Here, this is an evil that is done under the sun, that one thing to all. Truly, the hearts of men are fully in them. Truly, the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that, to the dead. But for him who is joined to all living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. But the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Also, their love and their hatred and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart. For God has already accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, and let your head lack oil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life which he has given you under the sun. All your days of vanity, for that is your portion in life, and in the labor which you perform under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. I returned, and I saw under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor battle to the strong, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. For man also does not know his time, like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in evil time, when it falls suddenly upon them. This wisdom I have also seen under the sun, and it was great to me. There was a city with few men in it, and a great king came against it, besieged it, and built great snares and bulwarks around it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered the same poor man. Then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. Words of the wise are quietly heard, rather than the shout of the ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's garment and cause it to give off a foul odor. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is at his left. Even when a fool walks along the way, he lacks wisdom and shows everyone that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for conciliation pacifies great offenses. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, while the rich sit in a lowly place. I have seen servants on horses, while princes walk on the ground like servants. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. If the axe is dull, and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success. A serpent might when it is not charmed, and the babbler is no different. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of the fool swallow him up. The words of his mouth begin with foolishness, and the end of his talk raving madness. The fool also multiplies words, and no man knows what is to be, so who can tell him what will be after him? The labor of fools wearies them, for they do not even know how to go to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. Because of laziness, decays, and through idleness of hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Do not curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a serving to 7, also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty upon the earth. And if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there shall lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God that makes everything. As you do not know of the Spirit, or the Ruach, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not hold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man lives many years and rejoices in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for there will be many. All that is coming is hevel. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these, God will bring you into judgment. Therefore, remove sorrow from your heart and put away evil from your flesh. For childhood and youth are hevel. Rejoice, O young man, in the days of your youth, before the difficult days to come, when the years draw near, when you say, I have no pleasure in them, while the sun and the light, the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain, and the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men bow down, when the grinders cease, because there are few, and those who look through the windows grow dim, when the doors are shut in the streets, and the sound of grinding is low, when one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of music are brought low. Also, they are afraid of heights, of terrors in the way. When the almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper is a burden, and desire fails. For man goes to his eternal home, and the mourners go about in the streets. Remember your Creator. The mourners go about in the streets. Remember your Creator before the silver cord is loosed, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the well. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Hevel of Hevel, vanity of vanity, says the preacher. All is Hevel. And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find acceptable words, written upright, words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of the scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. And further, my son, be admonished by these. I'm making many books. There is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. That's it. Boom. Well, thanks for listening. If you guys listen, thanks, Connie. I'm glad you enjoy these. That's encouraging. Yeah, if anyone wants to join, the link's there. I just thought I'd read through. I figured it probably wouldn't take me too long. I don't have it memorized the Old Testament. Maybe that the only book maybe hadn't memorized before is Song of Songs, because for a while I read that one like every day, probably at least a month, maybe 2 months. And Ecclesiastes, I think it seems like a good portion of it sticks with me now, but I still have to look and reference it a lot. But I try to look away. That way I figure if I'm not reading it, like I'm trying to have it more memorized. I think the last 3 chapters I can get through pretty easily. The last chapter is probably the easiest for me. That's my favorite chapter in the Bible, but it's just so poetic and so sad and so like heartwarming. But if anybody has, I did close my eyes. It's because anybody has thoughts, something, you're welcome to join on here or throw stuff in the comments or whatever. This book's always hard for me to. I mean, a lot of the Bible is always hard to comment on, but this one seems to elude me whenever I get in conversations about it. I have my favorite parts. One of the things I feel like the main thing that well, not the main thing, but one of the things that stood out to me is Solomon writing this. I think we mostly assume that it was Solomon. Um, he when he asked God for wisdom in the book of Kings, First Kings chapter 3, God comes to him in a dream, and God says, "Whatever you want, I'll give you." And he basically asks God for understanding and wisdom. And then you get to Ecclesiastes, and supposedly it was written like when he was later in his life and stuff, in his old age. I don't know if that's how accurate that is. I'm not sure, but just reading through it, it's just like God tells him in First Kings. He says, "You're going to be the wisest man." Basically, no, there's not going to be anybody like you that comes after you. And then you get to my favorite verse in the whole Bible, probably is 7 verse 23, and he says, at the end of his life, he says, "All this I proved by wisdom. I said I will be wise, but it was far from me." Probably heard me repeat that 3 times. Every time I read it, I repeat it 3 times. I usually repeat the beginning of chapter 7 3 times as well, because that's something I really desire personally. That spirit of mourning, um, and we always want to know God in like the good times, but I'd like to know Him in the suffering as well. But that a good name is better than precious ointment in the day of death than the day of one's birth. Better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men. Like that's just such a sobering statement. That is the end of all men. Gosh, better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men. I don't even know what it's saying there. Like, I don't know if it's saying every man ends like before as he's coming to the end of his life, he's in the house of mourning, or if he's saying that going to the house of feasting will be the ruin of all men. I feel like both are true, and that's why I don't know. But he says, "For that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart." Sorrow is better than laughter, and by sad countenance the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, and the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. For much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. One thing I thought, like another part I like too, is when it's talking about the blessedness of like having a baby that dies early or something. Like that's better than a man who lives 100 years and has never seen goodness. Um, a stillborn child is better than he, is what it says. But or indeed he has no burial. So it says, if a man begets 100 and lives many years, the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with goodness, or indeed he has no burial. I say that a stillborn child is better than he. So I've always been kind of interested in that too, just the idea of burial. Like when you're buried, there's a place for you. Like you're basically put back in a womb or in a tomb, and you're gathered to your fathers. You're gathered to your family. But if you have no burial, it is left out to be picked apart by the animals, I guess, the wild beasts. But this part I thought was interesting, for it comes in vanity, and that word is hevel, like the name Abel from Genesis, and it departs in darkness. Its name is covered with darkness. So it comes in hevel, like it comes in that kind of same spirit of Abel, almost kind of like that name, and it says its name is covered with darkness. But then below that, in verse 10, it says, "Whatever one is, he has been named already, for it is known that he is man, that he is Adam." So it says his name is covered with darkness, but then below it says he has been named already, for it is known that he is Adam. So I don't know. I just kind of like that. I'm not quite sure still what to think about all of it. I put a note. This is probably not going to make any sense. I just put a scripture reference. I'll go see what it is. He made darkness his secret place, his canopy around him, dark waters. Matthew, what up? Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, buddy.
How you
It's
doing?
going. It's going. It's going good.
It's
I
good.
just got back from just getting out of the house to for the sake of getting out of the house. Grabbed a slice of pizza and a beer, and
Nice.
yeah, and then went home by myself, by my lonesome. anyways, I'm home. I was rushing back when I saw you on here. I was like, man, I want to join Jason.
By your lonesome. Do you got a lot of friends there where you live? Because you're in the
No,
city, right?
no. No, I'm in Midland. So it's just it's a very interesting. Boy, we could talk about Midland. It's a very interesting place. Let's say that. Let's say that. It's very
Let's
very
talk about Midland.
interesting. Um, it's all energy industry. It's all energy industry. It's which I haven't seen the dark side of that. I mean, we business is a booming right now, so whatever. But but yeah. So I mean, it's just a very transient. West Texas, so heavy Spanish. For the first few months, I was living in like a work camp in Midland, and on a certain, on this certain side of town. I mean, it was three quarters of the establishments on that side of town where if you spoke English, you were getting looked at crazy. So
Do you speak Spanish?
I'm learning. I'm very muy poquito, muy poquito. I'm learning as we go with work. I'm just around it so much at work
But
that it's just, and plus I want to learn. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'd love to learn Spanish. Do you know some Italian though, or do you know Italian?
No, I know more Spanish, but I know this just because I'm such a dork on the other side of things. One of the fascinating things that really tickles me in cognitive science is the linguistic side. I don't know. See, what's one thing when I say I come in here, beating the John Vervaeke horn or drum, mix my metaphors, beating the John Vervaeke drum. It's also a pseudo or it's also a implicit cognitive science, nod. Um, that's for sure. but but yeah. So anyways, uh, it's it's very very interesting here in
Yeah.
Midland.
So
That's for sure.
do you work in the energy industry?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
what?
So
Yeah.
when I came out here for a certain job that was adjacent to the energy, which was air capture, was cleaning up air pollution, and that all went kind of sideways very quickly. Um, and
What does that
so,
mean?
well, it just I had the job and I was working there for a couple months, and we were the crew I was on was kind of being abused. You know what I mean? And look, I know the
Oh,
game.
gotcha.
I've been around this world and been in construction long enough. I wasn't putting up with the abuse, so like I gave it like a three strike chance, and I spoke up, and that's all it was. That's all it took is this big government money job. If you
Yeah.
raised your head, you got kicked out real quickly. But I didn't. You know, it's neither here nor there. I kind of fell in love with the charm of Midland. It's kind of a Midland Odessa effect too. By the way, it's like kind of two cities in a weird way, but two cities is one. But yeah, so I just kind of hung around. Plus, I'd already pulled up all my roots to make the jump for the job, so I just stuck around.
Yeah. 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 I remember you saying you moved from Florida and stuff. So yeah, well, it sounds like an interesting place. I don't know.
Yeah, it what what's really been on my mind is just the fact that the type of people that this attracts, which is so interesting because I prayed so hard about moving here, and it's one of the first types of like prayers that I feel like was explicitly like I felt heard the message to come make it, which is fine. I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. If I didn't have a freaking pinched nerve in my neck or shoulder blade right now, I'd be tickled pink. Most of my kind of uh issues right now are just not being able to stay active and be working out and stuff and all happy
Yeah.
in that way in that mode of being. But yeah, so I mean it's fine. It's just the people here are here for a reason mostly. Like it's mostly to come here for the energy, for the money around the energy, and so it's just like, I mean, if you can think a little hard, I'm not Mr. Money, money, money. Like that's not my vibe at all. So, anyways,
Yeah.
it's a trip. It's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, how far are you from like Cal and all them and Craig? You're pretty far, I'm
Oh man,
guessing.
Texas is huge.
It's so big. I can't stand
Um,
it.
the joke in West Texas is that you're 5 hours from anything, so
Oh, gotcha.
that's the minimum is to kind of get to any kind of
And they're like center, right? Dallas area. You
yeah,
can't.
yeah. I think the
Yeah,
because well, it gets it's interesting because Dallas, Austin, and Houston are all kind of there's a big cluster there. I mean, there's still some distance in between those, but I mean, you could, in my weirdo outsider opinion, you could classify all those as kind of Central Texas. I guess Houston is getting pretty south too. I don't.
yeah.
What do I know?
I don't know either. I try to avoid Texas. It sucks going through it, man. When you're driving through, it's so big, like you said. It takes so long. But I don't know.
What were you reading?
We
That is what I want to know. You know me, I'm Mr. Biblically illiterate. So
yeah. Well, we all are. It's Ecclesiastes. It's the one I try to read it once a week. But I had already read it this week, but I was like, well, I'll hop on and read it again. I think it only takes maybe about 30 minutes to get through. It's not super long. It's 12 chapters, but it's Ecclesiastes. It's also called Kohelet, I think is what our Jewish friends call it. It's supposedly, I mean, I don't know. I think it's basically accepted. I don't think anybody really argues against it, but I think Solomon wrote Proverbs, Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes. And so I think it's thought that he wrote Song of Songs, I think like in his early life. Then Proverbs probably in his midway through his life, and then Ecclesiastes towards the end of his life. But I don't know. It's sometimes actually kind of fun to, at least in your head, like think of them, at least the possibility of him writing them in different orders in that though. Because I almost think like I actually like Song of Songs thinking he wrote that like on his deathbed or something.
think that's one of the
Song of
marks
Song.
of. Go ahead.
What'd you no, what were you saying?
I said my intuition is that's one of the marks of a kind of a sake or that's one of the aspects or one of the things you're able to do with a sacred text or the idea of the sacred is I think it's the Vervaekian serious play thing. It's like I think you're allowed to kind of do exactly what you said. It's like you said, it's fun in your head, right? It feels good in your cognition or in your being to or reshape or reorder kind of the traditional. Like I think there's something there that rings true for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just um yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I would think probably the easy argument for that would be something like you could say if the word of God's eternal, it's like applicable at all aspects of life or ages of life.
Right?
But that
Yeah.
but so I mean the proverbs are really practical, I think. I still read, like I usually read a proverb every day because there's I think 31 chapters. So if you read one chapter like per day, you have the whole month basically. So I've done that for years too. Um I don't know why I've always been drawn to like the wisdom literature in the scriptures.
Yeah. Okay, you just
Uh,
you just reminded me. Is that was one of the things that interests me about what you're reading is how many times the word wisdom was mentioned in that. That was very very it tickled my fancy there. The other
yeah,
thing too is sparked in my brain too when you just said that was the all truth is God's truth. I think that's Saint Augustine. Like and then also I was listening to Sam Titteman and his friend, I think maybe Bob or maybe Bill. Well, one of their old I've kind of gone down a Sam Titteman rabbit hole. Been very, very impressed with him.
it's good.
And they were speaking on origin, and one of the things they said was that origin was so profound, so robust, such an impressive thinker that some of that this was their speculation and their opinion that some of his perceived kind of heresies or perceived wonky takes were really just what we were just kind of articulating or what I was kind of articulating from what you had pointed out was like just playing with ideas like really like honestly man I've just been so blown away with the the robust minds in this corner and like I think that's kind of one of the fingerprints I'm getting of you when I engage with you. You know what I mean? I'm very much a people person, man. I get, you know, your vibrations hum through the screen right now with me. Like, and me and you, we've spoken many, many times. But that is something I get from you, is that you have that fingerprint on you, when how you engage with TLC, is that you're always wanting to put your creative, your creative play, your creative serious play with whatever notion we're it's kind of a very girl
Mhm.
country-ish a notion to it, which I think you find a lot of home there too. So
Yeah, Grill Country is great for sure. There, it's like such an accurate name for that channel too. It really is. It's
I
like,
stumble into how I say sometimes I have just girl country moments, and I'm just like, wow, I'm so girl country,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then other
yeah.
moments I have, but
It's such a cool space too. I don't know. Thinking about all those, I wish I knew more of
Nate's
the King Arthur
amazing.
stories, but yeah, it's just crazy thinking about like with Sam and Nate and Luke and Cal and like everybody that's in this little corner. It's just weird. Uh, you just kind of sit back sometimes and I'm like, man, I actually know these people. This is just
What
insane. You feel like you like
Chad
it's
Chad Nick?
kind of
Go
like
ahead.
knowing famous people, but not like it's not really that at all. It's just like they blow my
It,
mind.
there
I
is
think they
this
really are some of the best thinkers like in the world right now. It's
there
crazy
is
to
this
actually
weird
know them.
hovering over the constellation of fame. It's not fame though. You're right. It's not fame.
Yeah.
It's like but anyways, but yeah, it's what it is. I mean, if we want to put our dork hats on and analyze everything, it's status. You know what I mean? It's that we have a community,
Well,
and but go ahead.
I mean, it's not it's some of that, but then some of it's like I don't know, like even thinking like, well, what if I knew Peugeot or if I knew Vervaeke in person? It's just like even that. I think some of the people that we talk to in this little corner that aren't well known, I really think are almost like on another
Yeah.
level above those
Okay,
guys.
okay. I
It's
see. I
insane.
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that, and I feel like you're putting a Matthew a me spin on something Luke mentioned. I think this morning, some of this stuff gets blurry on how much information I take in with this in corner. But anyway, I think he mentioned on this stream was that he was like he's or no, maybe it was on a conversation he had on with Chad and Neil, but he was like basically I'll put it in my recapitulation is that he would be just as happy or more happy to come sit down and have a beer with me or you than he would to maybe go have a beer with a Vervaeke or a Jordan Peterson and I think it's that same kind of point that you're coming is like the people around here are just as impressive and just as interesting. Like it's,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think there's also the grain of wisdom and beauty there and divinity of that. Yeah, we're all children of God. If you give anybody a chance,
Mhm.
if you really, I want to, I almost had a moment of skepticism there, but I want to be the full Christian and say, if you give anybody the chance, if you give anybody the true chance, they can show you, even a glimmer of light. And we're all just really I mean that's kind of the phenomenology I get from this because I feed off the light here. I feed off the light. It's that Neil notion. It's like this makes me I go out into the world and it makes me a better person. And then I come back in to come back and engage with TLC and I'm better at engaging with TLC. And that makes me and it's this reciprocal opening, it's this anagogic thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is I mean, yeah, this is such a blessing to find this place. I still don't understand why some people aren't interested. Like I mentioned it to some people and they're just not interested at all. But this is yeah, I completely agree. It's really um yeah, it rubs off on me too. Like even sometimes to just be down and you'll get on and just listen to one of these streams and it's
Well,
like
and, and,
and
and
I don't
go
know.
ahead, go ahead.
No,
Well,
I was
and,
just
and
gonna
now
say
Now, now I'm on the edge of my thinking here in conversation, put it on my tombstone. That's why we have to have conversations. It kind of it's getting that both aspects of TLC that I love too, because I've been hammering that all this rigor and philosophy and theology. I'm such a good extrovert and I'm so a gift of the gab with people. I'm able to synthesize this to so many people in everyday life and at work and stuff. It's like but it's also the other side. It's the caring. It's the really
mhm.
getting to engage with that personalism. Yeah, I feel very very close to you, Jason, and we've only spoke so
Yeah,
so
I know.
so many times, but in such a regard and in such a manner and such a tone, um, and so it's that both that transfer, the technical cog sci term is transfer. That bleeds over and transfers in that realm as well. It's not only do I get to, maybe drop a historical philosophical notion in a conversation, but it's also I get to bring in this stance of love and care, to a conversation. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
noticed that in my life as well. And and humbly and hopefully that keeps going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's totally true. Yeah, that's same with me too. Like I mean, I feel incredibly close to you too. Yeah, and we've only spoken a few times. I mean, on here, I mean, we talk in like private chat too and stuff. But
That's right.
I mean,
That's true
these
too.
people like are well. I mean, yeah, but you know, I mean, it's the people you meet on here. I don't know. Yeah, they are like some of my closest friends. Because I talk to like every day. I talk, it's just
I'm
and we just and there's just a connection too. Like I could talk to you and talk to other people about stuff I couldn't normally talk to most people about. Like literally my day today, I think I got up and worked, and then like I don't think I talked to my family when I walked in the door for maybe 30 minutes. And then and I'm like on here or talking to you guys or listening to a live stream. And maybe that's bad, but I mean, I don't do that all the time. Like I do spend a lot of time with family and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? The relationships on here are real. Like I actually, you spend a lot of time with these people and get to know them. And yeah,
Yeah, I think there's
so
there's a wisdom in that as well as a being just being aware of I think someone mentioned it. Gosh, there's just too many conversations in a podcast I just recently listened to, but it's
yeah,
something that I think me and you maybe had remarked on a Christian Golden shout out Christian stream. Uh, is that this connection there is a degradation and even though TLC has been able to amplify and create such a depth and a texture to it, it's still at the end of the day, like you said, it's you got to remember to go out there and say hey mom or whatever family you're living amongst. I'm
yeah,
living
yeah,
near
yeah,
your family, but yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
Well, I guess I meant to say like there's a lot of times where I'm content uh by myself. Well,
or good.
I don't know the right way to say it. I'm extremely grateful and blessed for the people I've met like through these relationships, and I didn't really even expect it to be that way. I didn't expect it to. I didn't really expect the relationships to be as real as they were. Um, I guess the reason is because like before, I mean, I've always known, I've always had my family and stuff, but before I even, I guess, kind of joined the TLC or the Bridges of Meaning, I mean, I just lived by myself with my dogs, and I had like no, like at that point in my life, like I didn't hang out with people at all, really, like nobody. I would just, and I was perfectly content with that and everything. And then, um, after you know my dog passed away, it was just like you're just kind of by yourself, and then these relationships start to, and then slowly, I mean, getting in this community, it was kind of out of interest, I guess, not really even thinking that it would be this genuine, I guess, is what I'm saying, and not
uh, I have a
yeah,
similar experience to that.
yeah, I'm just surprised by how real people are and how loving and caring people are in this little corner. It's just yeah,
How
I'm
how
always
how
blown away
long,
by it.
if you had to try and estimate, how long do you say you've been around lurking? What what?
Man, I'm an OG. No, I'm not. I
Ooh,
mean, I've probably been around for a long time. I wasn't there at the beginning. Like trying to think. I've probably been in the community because I think I joined BOM and stuff like that before my dog died, and she died early 2019. But
okay.
I still don't engage on Discord. I don't know what it is. Like I joined and just would watch YouTube videos, watch PVK, and I every once in a while like get on Discord to try to just ask a question or something more in the Bible section, and then usually my questions were just like totally missed. Like I'd ask a question and people would give me like some historical answer, and I'd be like, "That's not what I was asking at all." And so but I do
Text,
remember
text
when
is
I
tough.
first joined. What?
Text can be tough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I liked the Bridges of Meaning Discord. I don't know what it's like. I never get on there. I heard it's changed a lot. But when I first joined it, I can't remember what question I asked, but I asked some question, and I remember Jared and Luke, I think, were the first people to message me and reach out to me. And I don't, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I really would have stuck around. I've heard a lot of people say that about both of them, actually, and especially about Luke. Like, if it wasn't for Luke, they wouldn't have stuck around because Luke is really good at
He's a
just
special guy, man.
like,
Luke's a special guy.
yeah.
And then just
And
another
he,
shout on just don't be fooled by some of the flowery words. That dude is a bona fide. He's a bona
yeah,
fide intellect.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so, like, I mean, he messaged me and then they sent me some sermon, Justice Sermon by George MacDonald. I read through it. I was kind of blown away. I didn't even know it was George MacDonald.
I
I didn't
gotta go
really
down
talk
this
to
guy's
him.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff, man. I I didn't even really talk to them that much after that. Like they were just kind of there, maybe message every once in a while. I maybe talked to Sherry a little bit more. Um, then Christian Golden, I don't even remember how we first started talking, but he was the one that got me hooked on George MacDonald because he listened to a podcast of mine where I interviewed a friend and he said, get her some MacDonald. So then I bought one of his books for myself. I was like, well, I'll just try it. And so then I started talking to him a little bit more. And then really, I mean, I owe just like a ton of gratitude for Jacob too. When Jacob reached out to me to have me, he just asked if I'd be on his channel. Then after we talked, he wanted to do the Bible study. And like, I don't really think I'd even be around as much or really know people like I know them now if it wasn't for Jacob because he kind of pulled me in, I think.
I've also been going on a mini deep dive on him as well, just some of the older stuff. And it's funny with him, the phenomenon with him. I've always kind of it kind of just oozed off him that he's got a pretty sophisticated mind there. But what is interesting, what has kind of blown me away with him is the preconceived like notion from just the lore of TLC. I want to just be real and tell you what the gossip of TLC. And so for what that notion was in at the back of my head to now going on a little deep dive and really see, I'm like, this is hilarious. I love this guy. This guy is
Yeah, Jacob's
he's
great.
fantastic. He
Yeah.
even had one of the episodes that I did was like a Vervaeke's bullshit episode or something was the title. And so me as the Mr. Vervaeke fanboy, I was very set back on, what the hell am I going to get into here? And even that, I was like, oh, once I seen the angle and what was going on, I was like, oh, I love Jacob. He's just so great.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he's a great
he's
guy.
another.
And
It's
he
again that personalism. It's these humans around here are just amazing. They're
yeah.
to be simple.
Yeah, and they reach I mean they were like Christian Golden mentioned this too when his mother passed away. He was saying how how people just reached out to him personally. Like people texted him and he was like, I didn't even know they had my number or something. Well, I mean not that they like found his but they just normally you might message somebody and they would like call him and give him an actual phone call and stuff. But like that the reason I bring that up is because like I mean Jacob, he's got like you said, through all this gossip or something, he kind of gets framed with his personality, but he's probably one of the most caring, like compassionate guys I know. Like there was one time I mentioned I had got into a discussion with my parents, really an argument, and he messaged me privately and was like, like, are you all right? Like what, just kind of like making sure like no relationships were hurt or anything like that. Uh, and I don't know, that just always means a lot that people actually care enough to do something like that. Um,
Yeah,
but
well, he's
yeah, the
got
other, I mean, the other thing with Jacob too is like he doesn't hold his punches. Like,
you just
especially
exactly
theologically, and it
you
I,
read
I
my mind.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
read my mind where I was going to go to is I'm kind of a weird kid. And golly, I feel like I've been just shouting
Hello. I think I froze up.
out Luke all nonstop. But he mentioned and anyways, I have a weird one too where I'm Mr. ah, I'm Mr. Extrovert, so that there's a lot of agreeableness in that and kind of can get along. But I definitely have a streak of I'll stand up. I'll push. There's a disagreeable line in there with me, and I don't remember my scores on that Big Five aspect of it. But I'll say this is there's something there that I very much resonate with Jacob there, because, like you said, he's got some sharpness to his views and the way he kind of engages in the discourse, and sometimes that could be needed. If I had, all right, see, I've been blowing smoke up Luke this whole time. If I had to make one, kind of gentle critique of Luke, or maybe just,
Yeah, let's
it's
tear
maybe
him
not even,
down.
it's probably not even a critique. It's not really a critique. It's if I was to see Luke in one more optimal setting than light, it would be around a more of a Jacob interlocutor who can kind of be a little bit sharper and try and keep, because what Luke is so great about, and this is what I think there was some controversy this weekend on a live stream, is he can sit in that paradox. He's able to do this very beautiful dialogos jujitsu with these profound notions that we're going, trying to weave, these good conversations, and get to these abstractions and paint these pictures. And sometimes there's tough paradoxes to sit in and to flip around in. And the best metaphor I can have is jujitsu, and he does that very well. He does,
Yeah.
it's it and so that can sometimes aggravate you when you're in a certain perspective. And I think that was definitely epitomized this weekend, when Teo kind of said, he's like, "You're triggering me this morning." And I think there was, as much as Luke was
Oh,
triggering Teo, I think Teo, if
oh, I
even if you look
remember
back,
that.
would recognize he was allowing himself to get triggered, kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that people say that a lot about Luke. Like I've heard people say that about him before too. Like he'll talk out two sides of his mouth, but I really don't think he does. Like once you get to know him and you keep listening to him, it's just like
no,
the only way I know how to describe it is he just sees from a higher level. Like he really just is like looking
well, it's
down. He sees
it
the whole. Uh, yeah, that's why he can say things like that because he sees
yeah,
the relationality of like all things, and so
well, and I think
things
that's
aren't
why
contradictory for him.
he's got enough airtime on there with enough interlocutors, like now, to kind of maybe push back on my own kind of offering earlier. Was he does have enough interlocutors and enough airtime. If he would be saying some airy fairy, just nonsense, he would have, it would have already been aired out. You know what I mean? It would already be like, what
Yeah,
the, come on, like, it's
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's not what it is. That's not what it is. It's rigorous philosophy that is drilled down to a space that is I'm going to do the John Vervaeke thing. That is a wise enough perspective to make sense out of the nonsensical. It's in
yeah,
another metaphor that I can is just sitting in that paradox. I think Lance mentioned that a couple of days ago, and it reminds me of the comedians talk about when they're on stage. They're like sitting in the
yeah,
pocket of like the flow state. It's like that's what it is. It's being able to sit here's where I'll do the lived experience thing. When I went on when the first night I spoke with you, and you kind of left early in the conversation, and some more fringier TLC characters were on the stream, and they were really pushing, right? They were really,
Oh,
wrestling
I
with me in
remember
the
that night.
conversation.
Oh, yeah, I felt so bad.
Yeah. Well, I was
I like
doing I was
I was
doing
like,
the Luke
"Man, what are
thing. I
you
want to say is I was really in the pocket, trying to be in the flow of the conversation, really at the edge of my thoughts, And but I here, this is going to sound arrogant, but I feel like I had enough to say to where I was able to handle it. I was able to deal with the dialogue, and where the discourse was going.
Yeah,
And by the way,
yeah,
just to
yeah,
put a cherry on that, it got into a weird enough spot at the end where I did tap out. I was like, look, I don't know where you guys are going with this stuff anymore, and
No, I
I
remember
didn't
that.
want to
I felt
disrupt.
bad because it was just like, yeah, they just peppered you with questions and really brought
Yeah,
and I was, "Man, what are you
I'll
doing,
say
man?"
this: it was obvious
Chill
that
on
you
back
had
there.
a. It was obvious to me that you had a certain tone, and then once you left, there a different tone took over. It just took me a little
Yeah,
while to notice the
I can't
pattern.
remember who was in that. Yeah, I didn't even know everybody in that too because it was yeah, I remember that night. It was, gosh, what's his name? Yeah, I can't remember his name. I think one of his
I can't
friends
remember their
showed up though,
names either.
because I think
But
Kirk
I'll
was
tell you this
there,
too.
and then
Not I'll tell you this as well,
yeah, go
not
ahead.
again trying not to sound arrogant, but it was a testament to being open and vulnerable and putting this, what I believe and what I've been trying to embody truth on the line. And I felt like, whatever kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
topics they did bring
Yeah.
up or angles they brought up, I felt like I handled decently, or if
I
not
thought
well.
yeah, I thought you did. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It just yeah. They just came at you pretty hard. When usually, you try to get to know somebody first and get their story first rather than just pepper
Well,
their
and for
theology.
me,
I don't know.
I just wasn't even like I just hadn't experienced that level of stricter debate style. Like I was just like,
What
I
was
had to
the
even. I was so naive in it. It took me a while to pick up on the pattern. Like I was like, oh, you guys are really trying to like debate me right now, and so
yeah,
even that, I was just like, I'm such a Vervaeke dork. I'm just like, oh, we're doing dialogos over here. We don't do debate. Blah blah blah. Blah. It's like, but anyways, like I say, I don't want to beat a dead horse or anything,
eh.
but it was an interesting
What was
experience.
the what was the first live stream you were on or first conversation you're in?
It goes back to Luke Thompson and Nate Howe on just a
I don't
slow
know if I
Saturday
saw that
morning.
one.
It was a slow Saturday morning, probably. I want to say maybe October, November of last year. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just got on and spoke with him for a little bit. And
So how long have
I,
you been around the like? Did you join the BOM or
so
was that kind of your first when you first started coming into it?
I would say I had been a commenter for about a year and a half, and probably a lurker for probably another year on top of that, and maybe another year and a half. So somewhere around the like, because I've mentioned in, I think, a live stream that I've been around since probably the beginning, but I think after digging deeper, I think I probably misunderstood when the beginning of TLC was. But but that's fine. I mean, everybody comes into things with their own perspective and lens. But it was, yeah. So I would probably say I've been paying attention and commenting on Paul Vervaeke videos for at least 3 years now. Um, like I said, so lurkerdom into commenter, somewhere around then. And then my first show my face on the screen was this past fall with Luke and Nate. And then just been popping up more and more, the chances I get. I work Monday through Friday, so it's I got the time I got. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You've been around for a while. Yeah, this corner. I don't even know when it started necessarily. I mean, I think it's been around for a while. I don't know. I know
well,
Luke supposedly has been there from the beginning, but um,
I can get
I don't
pretty
even know when the beginning
specific
was.
with my entrance on that. It was around the 2019, rest in peace to your pup. That
Thanks.
excuse me. Excuse me, that was I feel like that was rude.
No,
It
it
was
wasn't.
around
It wasn't.
2019 because that was when does any I mean, I guess I could Google the precise Jordan Peterson window when he was really
Yeah, I
down
don't
with this
know.
illness. Was that 18 or
Oh,
19?
gotcha. I want to say
I
that
mean,
was like
it was a
maybe
span of period, so
2020. I don't
it could have
know.
covered
Yeah,
yeah, it could have covered a little bit of 18 and 19, right? Because it was a span of
I don't
period.
know.
But anyways,
Yeah,
there was definitely a down period there where, there was kind of a lapse in any kind of JP adjacent content,
gotcha.
and I
Yeah.
had stumbled. I mean, gets weird because I had been kind of making some poor choices really with a female friend. Thing kind of had the hometown spell on me, so I gave her a little bit more benefit of the doubt than I probably should have. But anyways, she kind of took over my. I mean, now that I'm saying this doesn't quite make sense, but this is how it happened. So we were hanging out for a few weekends there, and for a few months there on the weekends, and we'd be, she's a pretty smart gal, so she'd be interested in the kind of ideas I was into. So I'd be showing her this YouTube algorithm stuff that I was listening to, some of the YouTube videos, and we had a few different perspectives on things, especially when it came down to kind of like the more materialistic, political kind of mammonistic stuff. But that's neither here nor there. But the fact is I went to bed one night and she kind of took over my algorithm, my YouTube algorithm, and I wake up the next day to a John Vervaeke video. And it's not. Well, I take that back to not just any John Vervaeke video, but the first of his Awakening from the Mini Crisis. And I remember going like, "Oh, what is this? What is this? I've never seen this." And anyways, it didn't take but maybe another week or maybe another month later to where I gave her a little bit more credit and benefit of the doubt, and I investigated into that video more. And I'll never forget the term. she said, she goes, no, he's saying some interesting things about bullshit. And that stuck in the back of my brain.
About bullshit.
Yeah, because I'm Mr. Wannabe Mr. Rigorous Philosophy. Just did 350 hours of psychological YouTube videos with Jordan Peterson in the last 2 to 3 years, and so I'm like, I'm not. So I was like, bullshit. What is this? What is this? Doctor at a university putting lectures on YouTube have to say about bullshit? What could he sophisticatedly say? And boom, as the his, the rest is history, where I opened up those videos and I've never been the same since. So
Yeah. That's crazy.
so
That's crazy,
anyway,
man.
that's kind of my entrance into. I consumed those videos. I probably went on my second round of those videos and started paying attention to it, the adjacent videos and adjacent ideas with the more Pajot stuff and
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
more evolving. Peterson came back onto the scene, and somewhere along that line, 2020-ish, I didn't get my, I didn't, I was in construction as a, what is it? I had to work during the whole thing, is what I'm trying to say. I can't remember the stupid terms they had, but anyways, and so somewhere around that line, PVK popped up in my algo, and I just, as slow at first. I was a doubter at first. I wasn't impressed. I have a very nasty character flaw where I kind of have to. You kind of have to really show. I should be born from Missouri. You have to show me, kind of thing. But yeah, maybe 3 or 4 videos in, I fell for PVK, and I've been in love ever since.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've I think I've always liked most of PDK stuff. I think Peugeot is what really hooked me personally. I when I well, Peterson's Genesis series is what got me, and then I was hooked
Yeah,
on
that was
that, and then
beautiful.
that led to Peugeot's diving down that whole rabbit hole. And then that got me, I don't know, eventually I got to weird studies, and honestly, that's where, like, those guys blow my mind the most, probably. I still like Peugeot, but I don't listen to him as often. And I like
Studies.
Vervaeke a lot. I love seeing Vervaeke in conversation with Peugeot and Peterson. When his lectures, I I never got into him quite as much as other people did. And then even I don't know, here's something that's kind of interesting too. Like I know Vervaeke gets I think he gets some crap about like his Vervaeke language and stuff like that. It's helpful. It really is helpful in a lot of ways. But I remember Mitch said to me once, it was a long time ago. I think it was when like I was talking to Mitch, and then he was kind of coming into the corner too, and he said something. He was like, "Do you ever find some of this?" And he wasn't talking about Vervaeke. He was just talking about the language people use in this corner. And he was like, "Do you ever find some of the language alienating?" And I was like, "Yeah, it kind of is." Like I mean, if people say theosis or kenosis and things like that, like when I first came around here, I had no idea what those words were. And so then like you start hearing those words, and everybody's just throwing them out there, and I'm like,
I
I don't know,
agree.
and it's pretty like it's alien. You
Look,
have no idea.
I I agree, and that's coming from Mr. JV nerd. So I'm Mr. JV speak, but I agree. Mitch is putting his finger on something. But this is what I would offer Mitch. I would push back a little bit in this way, gently. I would say, I think Mitch. Yes, again, I'm gonna give him the nod. I think he's putting his finger on a correct phenomenon. But I would say is I don't think that phenomena is necessarily avoidable. I think it can just be, how to the extent, how much it's amplified. Because here's what he's noticing. He's noticing an in group out group phenomena. He's noticing in my kind of first glance at it is he's noticing any group they're gonna have just heuristics and quick markers for, hey, I'm here, I'm part of the group. Look, I use the John Vervaeke words, or hey, look, I'm here, I'm using a lot of Christian terminology. It's so if someone was came into TLC, I mean, T Grog is a perfect example of exemplification of it, right? He comes in, he's like using all this reductive, enlightenment, materialistic kind of standards of epistemological, needing the.
Oh no, oh no, I think it cut out for a second. You there? Hello, Matthew?
Then I feel like you're just kind of blowing a lot of hot air.
Sorry, I cut out for a second. You said, or I cut out right when you said T-Grog.
Oh, I was just saying that T-Grog is kind of a good exemplification of that, in that he kind of comes in, right, and he kind of fires off all the outgroup signalers with, the wanting the evidence and wanting the, epistemological kind of enlightenment style reductionist materialism. And
Yeah.
my kind of stance with that is just I was very much in that realm of thinking, not just but a few years ago, and all you got what broke me away from what liberated me from that was the cognitive science, was falling down the cognitive science rabbit hole, and the rigor of that was able to really just kind of, like I said, just break you of that materialist reductionism. Be careful.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you doing?
I thought I was gonna just work on making a rosary. I started getting into that, but yeah,
Ooh, very, very
you,
cool.
yeah, dude. If you want one, let me know. I can make you one now. I'm getting better
Very
at it.
cool. I
Yeah,
bet.
but
I
I was
bet.
burning the end of that, and it yeah, burned me.
Did you have some
But
sage earlier? I thought I saw some sage.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know what this one is. It's something else. It's not.
Okay,
It's like got some resin.
that's
I
what I
can't remember
thought.
what. I've had it for a while. The sage, and this is could burn it. I'd like to smell the sage better, but it just I only have that one left till I buy
You're
more.
making me
Oh,
want to light some incense.
yeah. Yeah, I think what helped me, I mean, just I don't know. I still struggle with I think some of the materials and stuff too, but I think I don't know what broke. It's probably Peugeot stuff. I think
Oh yeah,
really helped me with
you
that.
just took
But
it right out of my brain.
well, I think some of it. I mean,
Peugeot
honestly,
is
I don't know if that because I think about it and I'm like I know Peugeot has helped me tremendously, but then when I think back on it, I mean, a lot of it I really think was just I think a lot of it was just the Bible. Like honestly, almost all the theology where I am now has just been rigorous reading of the scriptures. And then on top of it, coming to these points in it where you just get stuck in the scripture and it literally is like hitting a wall. You have to go
warrior.
through that. Yeah, you have to like you end up having to go through the materialism because it's like, what's symbolic or what's material. You can interpret the scripture all sorts of different ways. And you have to have all of it. Like really like that's why I mean I really try to hold all of it, the historical, symbolic, like all of that stuff. But I think that and probably really getting into fasting, I think helped me. Just I cannot even explain how much that
Interesting,
of a help that was
interesting.
to me. Like
Like a psychedelic
fasting,
aspect of that. What can
yeah,
you elaborate
basically,
more on that?
yeah, basically. Like the first like YouTube conversation I ever did, like on my channel because I did some podcast for him when I first started getting into the YouTube like Zoom calls was with Emily Mudhut. I don't know if you know her. She's not around on the corner as much anymore, but her backstory was she got into Christianity through psychedelics. And so the reason I wanted to talk to her was because I thought there were similarities between uh, taking psychedelics and fasting, especially on an extended fast. And so that's basically the best way I know how to describe it. Is it is kind of like a
You cut
psychedelic,
out.
not like a
You
trip.
cut out.
Cut out
You cut
again.
out.
What
Yeah,
lesson again?
you cut out at Emily came to Christianity through psychedelics.
Yeah, that's what she had said that, and so let me try to think. Yeah, and so like I had her ask if she'd come on my channel because I wanted to talk to her about the similarities between um, psychedelic experience and fasting. And so because that's the only way I know how to describe like some of the fasts, especially when I got into more extended ones, is it's literally like you just feel the heavens open. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It's just
And
like it's
may,
absolutely amazing.
may I ask, have you done traditional psychedelics?
I've never tried psychedelics, no. So
Okay, but you still, just from the anecdotal stories you've heard, the images that you can still relate to yeah, that's very interesting. Um, yeah, and by the way, you're not alone, right? That's actually kind of a very common and understandable take on that. Um, well, what I would say for where I kind of went was that makes sense for me, because I was very much in that kind of psychedelic, mystical, new age realm, but I had just been slotted into the new age Buddhism stuff. I mean, John Vervaeke 6 years ago was doing a Buddhism cognitive science series. and teaching that in universities for a reason. Like there's a reason that there was the Enlightenment removes the self to observe the world, just like kind of the Eastern philosophy attempts to, or let me not say attempts, emphasizes the the let's say the no thingness nature of the self and of the human experience. Um, you know, I think you can also say the Western philosophy kind of flips it on its head with kind of creation and personalism and being as good. But that's neither here nor there. But uh, dang, I lost my train of thought. Where were we just? What were we
We're
just?
talking about psychedelics and stuff,
Oh,
and
psychedelics. So okay, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so what I was gonna say was, so when I went from kind of the new age, still very much into psychedelic experience, that all transitioned very much with kind of the Buddhism, uh uh was it pure consciousness event, stuff I was investigating and trying to dabble with myself, which my journey that all synthesized and kind of led seamlessly along into just one step further with a mystical kind of Neoplatonic Christian vision. So I say all that I can totally relate, I think, to where I think you said Emily, to where Emily's coming from. Like psychedelics and Christ is it's not too far a stretch for me.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people I think have come well, not just Christianity, but I think it kind of opens the door to spirituality for them and stuff like that with
Right.
psychedelics. I've always grown up really believing heavily in that stuff. I still do. Um, and so I don't know that I wouldn't say like some people need it or anything. It's just like I think if I had a hesitation about psychedelics, it was because I'd probably be too scared because I'm like, I know that shit's real. Like, like I already know. Like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
um I not that I mean I don't know why I think a lot. I don't think like a lot of it's that harmful either. Like I feel like a lot of people don't really have
Well,
bad experiences with it, but I don't know. I was just curious about the whole the similarities between a psychedelic experience and fasting, because fasting doesn't really, I wouldn't say it feels like a psychedelic trip. It's not like that at all. It just feels like you feel incredibly grounded. You feel incredibly sober and coherent in your mind. Like there's no like loss of control. But I literally, I mean, it just, the clarity of thinking that comes through, especially once, like I've talked to my friend Rebecca about this. I've really wanted to get her like on a podcast or something sometime because she's done like research on it. I basically was just like, I remember when I started doing it, I thought, because the churches I grew up in were against fasting. As weird as that sounds, they were really against it because they said it was like a works based. You can, so I all their reasons.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
so I basically
I
was
know.
just like, yeah. So I just kind of was thinking about it and I was praying and you just kind of my walk with God and I was like just kind of being honest with myself. And I was like, the reason I don't want to fast is because it sounds freaking awful. I was like, that's, if I'm being honest with myself, I just don't want to do it. And so I was like, I'm just going to force myself to do it. I went 9-day fast, ended it. And I'm like, that was absolutely, and when I remember when I ended it, I was like, well, that was pointless. Like I didn't get anything after that. But then like the next day after I was eating again, I just kind of noticed, I was like, wait, something's different. Like now that I'm eating again, I can feel a shift. Something's different. So then it was just like, my process of it wasn't doing research online like my friend Rebecca. It was just more like I'm just gonna f around and find out. And so I was just like, I just do a fast and I'd pray and I'd be like, okay, well, or then I'd try another fast and mess up. But the longest I noticed for me, I'd start to get a real clarity in thinking around day 3. Day 5 is the freaking hardest. It's just like so hard. Like almost the mental clarity goes away and it's almost like all I can think about is food and all these reasons why I should eat and like why I should end my fast. And if I can just push through that, it gets a little easier. But then once I'm through, like, especially if I can get through like 10 days, it's either, it seems like if I do that, the race is either there or it isn't. I don't know how to describe it. It's either I get really hungry and I just can't go on, or it's just I settle into cruise control and it's just like freaking glorious, and I don't know how to describe it. Like, I'll never want the fast to end. Just have like everything's firing on all cylinders. I'm like making connections in my brain that I've never made before. There was one time, and this was like almost like a psychedelic experience. I remember I was on a really, really long fast, and I started thinking in shapes, and that's the only way I know how to describe it. It was like that sacred geometry stuff, and I want to get
Okay.
back to that so bad. I'm like, man, it's so good.
What is the longest you fasted for, Jason?
I don't want to say.
Are you
Well,
serious?
I
Okay,
did.
okay, okay.
No, I
How
mean,
long? Yeah.
I can. So I now the fasts I do like normally aren't. They're not always like really strict. Like a lot of people would do water fast and they'll only drink
Okay.
water and that's all. Usually, I'll just do like I'll try to do 0 to minimal calories or something like that. But I'll still drink like I'll have coffee. I'll have like diet soda because I always drink Diet
Okay.
Dew. Um, and sometimes I'll have like sometimes I'll do broths. Like I'll still drink like a broth or something.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it basically like unless
I've done
you
some.
unless you're do-
I've done a
unless
baby
you're doing
version
just
of.
water. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've done a baby version of that, but I've never done any total fasting. But 9 days, yeah,
Yeah.
that's long. Like if you're doing it, that's very
Well,
very impressive. Well, and what I was
I
gonna
did.
say too is
I've gone longer than 40 days. But
holy.
that was that was like, but that like it wasn't just like I mean it wasn't a water fast.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
like I'm
Like you
just
said,
drinking
you
water.
had yeah, you had
Yeah,
some other
and
other. But
coffee
anyway,
always helps a bunch too. It kind of suppresses your appetite too. So
well, and just to put on our hats here too. I mean, to be fair, I don't know the necessary total details of what our ancient ancestors would do. I could imagine, something like a coffee or something like a broth. I could totally imagine like different like Jews today have their different workarounds for stuff. I mean, it's come on, man.
yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
the other thing I
see,
was
here's
gonna
the thing. The thing is like if it's not just water, a lot of times it's like you always run into that. Is that cheating? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so.
yeah.
Like because
Well,
it's
see, well,
you just kind of set the parameters yourself and then go for it.
yes,
And
yes.
I will say, the more restricted it is, better results I think I get. Like I think
See,
if I if I like I've tried some where it's like, well, I'm only gonna do one meal a day of just vegetables or something. I've tried that and I don't seem to quite get into that mental clarity. I think it's just because like there's still that option out there in my head of like I'm thinking of what I could eat for dinner or something. And like when
yeah,
it's just not there, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but yeah.
interesting, interesting because that's that I had the similar experience too with my little baby version of that where one of the explicit ones
Tell
I'll
me
do what
about
I
it.
call
Tell me
30.
about it.
I'll
Oh
do
man.
30 days of no excess sugar. And people or my friends will be like, they'll ask all these questions, and I tell them exactly what you said. I said, bro, you just make the parameters yourself and just you rule yourself. Like because they'll be like, um, what I think I was having a beer, and they're like, well, beer's got sugar in it, and I was like, look, that's not what I'm counting as like an excess, or I would call it
Yeah.
gross sugar. I'm talking about like a desserts or something, that I was trying to cut out. Anyways,
Yeah.
and I've done other different like keto aspects, but yeah. So
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
was gonna say too is until you mentioned the shape thing, which kind of brought it full circle. I was gonna say instead of psychedelic, you were kind of making me think of mind altering, like conscious altering states,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it
mind
is an
altering
altered state.
states.
That's
Yeah,
when I talked to Emily that first time, that's what we were talking about is like just it puts you in an
but
altered state of consciousness, yeah.
But when you said you had that one peak where you were talking about, where I think you said seeing in shapes or thinking it, whatever,
Thinking,
that
yeah,
brother,
thinking.
that's about as close to a psychedelic description as you can get.
It
For
was
someone who
glorious,
has
man.
taken, yeah, that's very
Believe
interesting.
you. I wish I could get back to that. Like that was I've never had that experience before, and I just remember it being yeah, it was crazy. I don't know how else to describe it. I was just yeah, thinking in shapes. But one of the things I noticed on almost all the fasts is I usually will have synchronicities. I always almost always experience that, but they're never like planned. Like I remember there's plenty of times where like I've started to fast and I've been like wanting to focus on something or like I want an answer from something and it's never that. Like I remember I once I started a fast and I just really wanted to focus on wisdom. And I was like, God, I just want like I want wisdom. I want this or that. And then it's just like I started the fast and then all of a sudden like I'm just like things are happening and then this comes up and it's about I remember it was like all of a sudden there's all this stuff coming up about Persephone and I'm like, what the hell is all this? Like I don't want to like I don't know anything about Persephone. I didn't know anything about Persephone. And then I'm just seeing like pomegranates here, pomegranates there, and I'm like if anything, I wanted to know about Athena because she's the goddess of wisdom in Greek mythology. Like, why am I getting all this weird stuff about? But that's what I mean. It's like you just kind of something will pop up and you just kind of follow it, and then it just uh, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it or why it happens that way because it always feels like the synchronicities are coming from like outside. Like I'm not making them up. Because if I was, then be like I'd like to use a fast to focus my attention on something, but it never really does that. It's like my attention will focus on something, but it's usually like uh, something coming from out there, like these all these synchronicities or something, and then it just blossoms into just
Reminds me
I
of the
don't know.
Pageauian it reminds me of the Pageauian notion of, kinda like attention might be a fundamental we have these, like, fundamental, building blocks of reality and realistic kinda, worldviews, but, I think in, like, a TLC kind of more spiritual, worldview, I think I think attention might be a fundamental building block. And so it reminds me of like, because what happens with me with synchronicity is since I've been on this spiritual journey, I would say since 8 years ago, since I've really, uh, you know, picked myself up and got my life together. Um,
Yeah,
that's when I started. That's when that's when things like that started picking up for me that's when I even discovered the notion of singing. That's when I even I'd only heard young as a distant term, academic term off in my head until about like I said, about 7 or 8 years ago I really cleaned up my life. But excuse me,
we're
had to clear my throat.
yeah,
Anyways, but yeah, so
yeah,
I think there's something about that with attention, like you start seeing the like you said, when you meditate on wisdom in your fast, then when you pull up the book you start seeing what you start seeing the different things about what it's very interesting.
yeah, it's weird because it's never quite what I want or what I'm expecting or like if I'll want to go on a fast for this reason or that or because I want to meditate on a certain thing and it's like I always get a different meditation. Like the meditation I'm given is like handed to me from God. Yeah, and it feels like that's what I mean. It just feels like the heavens are open and I'm just talking with angels or something. I don't know how to describe it. Like if I could be on a fast, if I could never eat food again, I would be so freaking happy. Like if I could just be on a
I heard
continual fast forever. I hate food. Like I despise it so much because of just like I would love to just be in that state. Because once you're there, like once you experience it, it's just that's a and maybe I'm just free weird. Maybe it's not like that for everybody, but it's glorious. And like my friend Rebecca said the same thing. She said that if she ever tells people to fast, she says don't do it for one day which, you can. I mean, I do think if you have it as a regular practice, like I'm going to fast one day a week, like I think that's good because it is discipline and willpower. But she says if you're trying to get to that, she says if whenever she gives people advice, she told me this before that she said I usually advise them to try to go more than 4 days because she said if you can get through the fourth day, you start to experience that state and you start to get in there and then you notice like something's different and like the third day is just I feel like the third day it's probably different for each person but the third day I feel like is you start to experience a mental clarity but it just freaking sucks like it just sucks like there's nothing fun about fasting especially those first few days and then even the whole time like even when you're in that state and like that I'm talking about everything just kind of clear. I literally like I can't even describe like my body's functioning like on a higher level too because you're just not having to process food and calories. Like you don't need as much water, you don't need as much sleep. Like I could probably run like twice as long as I normally could. You just don't feel sluggish either. Like everything, but at the same time, it's still like never easy. You still will get hunger pangs every once in a while. It just gets easier. It's not like I mean, it's not like it's fun or anything the physical aspect isn't, but the first few days are just freaking awful. But if you can get through those, it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just glorious.
It's interesting to me too because my left-brainedness wants to creep in and analyze it and just be like, I really
Ooh,
wonder if some of this is just finding uh discovering the wisdom of ketosis and really throwing your body into a different
no,
nutrients burner because that's
that's
exactly
definitely
what's going on. Go ahead.
no, no. I was gonna say yeah, yeah. I was just agreeing with you. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, because when you take away those carbs for the fourth day, the woman who's got some wisdom dealing with this stuff, I'm pretty sure it's around 4 to 6 days for the average person that's when your body kicks into like, hey, it's time we're taking all the fat for now on
yeah,
to fuel ourselves because we're not getting the carbs and sugars. Not to say that like ancient folk had a super carb sugar diet, but they were definitely still eating breads. You know what I mean? I mean breads and
yeah.
rices and grains
No,
have
I
still
think
been a big part, and bread gets turned to sugar in your gut. So go ahead.
no. I was just saying like I think you're spot on. I do think it's directly related to ketosis, and I think it throws you in ketosis
There
quicker.
you go.
Because that's why I'd like to talk to Rebecca, my friend, because she knows like she's done all that research, and so she could say whether that's the case or not. But I'm pretty sure she
Cool.
told me that too.
Cool.
Like the state of the way your brain when you're in ketosis, your brain will start functioning on a like differently
Right.
as well, and it's similar to like when you're on
Well,
a fast. But
and it's so intuitive when you think about it. I mean, how how obvious to take just a second to think about it and step back and think about it. How obvious is it to you to think what fuel you're running your body on? Your body is a living thing that needs fuel and energy. To think that what that fuel and energy is, matters, and to radically alter it will significantly matter, and could perhaps radically alter your experience and your your cognition and what have you. I mean, it's kind of
yeah,
it makes it's very reasonable to me, plausible and reasonable to me.
yeah, yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's amazing what like your body can do too, and like how long it can go on no food and no water too. Like when it says that stuff in the Bible about people, like Moses didn't drink or he didn't eat or drink water for 40 days. And I'm like, I know it's supposed to remain in this like miraculous, unattainable realm. And I do think you have to be sustained by God through that. But it is once you're not eating, and if you go for like 2 weeks without eating, I mean, you could probably go a week without drinking water. I would think pretty easily. But I might be wrong. Don't like I haven't tried that. I haven't gone that long. But it's just
Yeah,
like
but then also, like you
all the
said,
weird stuff growing up with like I remember hearing all this stuff in school about like all these different rules on what your body can and can do. Then it's just like that's it's not true at all. It's weird. Like you put your body to the test, and you're like, man, it's just the things your body can do is like just incredible. You can go beyond those limits all the time. I mean, what like one guy, what is it, Wim Hof or something? He does that all the time, stuff like that. But
yeah, he's the guy. He's the breathing
he's
guy.
not.
He taught me about
He's.
nose breathing. Very, very smart.
Do you do that?
Um, I definitely try when I'm not all beat up and I'm in shape and working out every day and stuff. I'll
Yeah.
definitely am nose breathing. It's definitely the way you're supposed to run.
Really? I
But
didn't
I
know.
will say, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, dang, I'm having scatterbrain. What were we just?
Sorry. Probably
No, no,
me
you're fine.
distracting you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's no, it's definitely not. It's definitely me. I have that happen sometimes. Um,
Yeah, it's. I mean,
anyways.
I could go on and on about fasting. That's one of the topics where like I'll just talk about it, and it's weird. I don't I don't ever really push people to do it because I know everybody's different and people respond differently to like no food too. Like usually if I don't eat meals, I don't really get hangry like some people do. And I don't think my mood plummets like some people do. So I think it's probably easier for me.
Well, and
But
I would also say that the ancient cultures were probably just a little bit. I mean, everybody was doing this it was so ingrained that I guarantee you there's some people whose physiology and health would be traumatized by a certain situation like that, just from such a just saturation of the modern kind of diet and in
Yeah.
health or anti-health situation. My memory did get jogged though. Goodness gracious! Excuse me one more moment. I have a little bit of a frog in the back of my throat. Um. Anyways, what I was going to say is, with the 40 days and
Look
40
at
nights of the
this.
Moses. What
I don't know.
So
Like,
Luke
all right.
just mentioned the other day too about how politics has really been sidestepped so well here. Um,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
I was gonna say
All right.
my brain
40
was
days,
jogged
40
was
nights.
yeah was it reminds me too, shout out, well, first of all, shout out Peugeot, but also shout out Sam Tinman again. I was watching him and his buddy do a conversation on origin, and origin had these three levels to the Bible: the literal,
Oh, yeah.
the soul, and the spiritual. And s- so you could read the Bible for a little. You could read the Bible for a literal example. You could read the Bible for a perspective on your soul, or you could read the Bible for this perspective on the ultimate reality and spirit. I think was what they were kind of laying down, that or was Origin's take on it. Anyway, so I was just going to say is that it reminds me of the Saint Gregory of Nyssa thing. Is that the life of Moses? I just read that this past year. It's this notion of striving to perfection. So I would say you don't have to. You don't. My gut as such a Pageauian Christian, kind of try to bring these all together now, is when someone brings that to me and says you can't fast for 40 days before you can't not. I say, first of all, I'm not taking that story and that uh uh micro narrative of the Bible. I'm not taking that as a literal phenomenon. Uh, and second of all, it's and so once you, well, I guess maybe what you would say is just a 1B maybe would be is that once you do that, you can see that, like, there's a striving, and you touched on it. There's a striving on that. You'll never get to Moses's 40 days. That's Saint Gregory of Nyssa's whole notion in his life of Moses is it's the striving for the perfection. As long as you're aiming for Moses, you're doing great, buddy. It's like
Huh.
you're on the right. You know what I
I
mean?
see what
So
you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
it's not well, and it's not well, yeah. I was gonna say it's not what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
It's
It's
not,
what Saint
it's,
Gregory of Nyssa was saying. But
yeah.
I get what you.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone did it, if they went with that long without food or water. It really wouldn't
Could
shock
be.
me at all. But I will say it sucks. Freaking sucks. I've tried doing the like total fast, and it's not fun, dude. It's
Well,
just
think
like
about it this way. I
it,
could think of a materialistic, like, let's even do the gymnastics for the materialist dorks. It's like I could if someone did put you to, oh, how could you do that? I could say this: there was a really rainy season, so every day, there'd be a good downpour of rain, and my gentleman had enough fat reserves, because there's, by the way, there's documented already in modern times, there's documented facts of, like, I think up to 300 days of like kind of more
yeah,
heavy set gentlemen not eating for like
I
300
know
days.
it's
Yeah,
insane.
so
Yeah, some people go a
yeah,
long time. It's
yeah, so
crazy.
what I could do the whole apologetics thing and say you times that with the miracle, the metaphorical miracle of enough rain to keep you sustained, and boom, you're alive for 40 days.
Yep. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, the argument for like the yeah that yeah I don't find it. I guess that's what I mean. Like it doesn't. I don't even really find it compelling. Like even if people are like, your body couldn't do that, I'm like, well, what the hell? Why? Like I don't. Like
Well,
I'm just
see,
like
my thing is,
it doesn't. I mean, I remember hearing all the time growing up, like you can't live. Like if you go longer than 3 days without water, you will die. And I'm like, I don't
yeah.
know who made up that rule. I remember hearing that my entire life, and I'm like, that is not fucking true. Like it's just not true. Like I know for a fact it's not true because I've done it, and it's like it's just crazy. I don't even know who made that up, but so that's why I'm like I don't really know that if someone said no, this could he could have never done this. I'm like I don't know that that bothers me because that's what I mean. Like
Well,
once your body quiets down like that, once you get into that state where your body's burning your fat reserve and also like you get into that state, your body just shuts down because it knows like okay, no more food's coming. I need to quit bitching about it. So it just kind of gets quiet, and then it goes into like it's just not processed food, so you don't need as much fluids, and then it goes into healing mode too, and that's why you have like all these stories where people will literally like I've heard I haven't like heard them personally, but like secondhand, I've heard multiple stories of people like being cured by like well, one guy I know this guy personally, and he said his grandmother twice has beat cancer by just both times she got diagnosed with cancer. She just said, nope, and went on a 3 day no food, no water fast, and then went back into the hospital and it was gone. And so like your body just goes into this cleaning mode. And I've heard multiple cases where like people have tumor, and I think from what I understand what happens is once your body shuts down and it's looking for food and stuff elsewhere, then it notices, hey, there's this thing that shouldn't be here. And so it basically just eats it up and just
I've heard
it'll
I've
become
heard a, I've heard a similar hypothesis.
yeah, I don't
It's
know how true that
fascinating,
is 'cause I haven't tried that personally. I haven't had any tumors to try it on, but
right?
I don't know. But I don't know. It's a crazy phenomena that I just feel like. I mean, I don't know why. Like that's what I mean. I can talk about it for so long, but I think most of it is just because even though I grew up in a Christian culture, I didn't grow up like if I think in Catholicism and a lot more Orthodox churches, they always have some sort of fasting present.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
like I said, it was taboo. Like I remember when I first started doing it, I would get in
Oh
like
man,
arguments
I'm
with
glad
people
I'm glad you just said that
about
because
it.
that brought up a thought I had earlier. Um, and and I did I did want to say too is don't feel weird because fasting is you just hit on it. It's as old as Dignum as Dignum time. It's like it's a very
Yeah,
interesting thing that our ancestors stumbled upon whatever stumbled air quotes. And like I said with the medical information the data coming in about the medical benefits now it's very eerie to think that they've been doing that for so long and it could have been benefiting so many people. I
hmm
did want to mention what you were just kind of saying too is PDK brought this up in his kale conversation is that and you had a quote I think in our chat thread maybe about like the denominations are like a divorce and it's like what you just said reminded me it's like it's so weird that like different aspects different dynamics like here I'll just put my cards on the table. I was raised Italian American Catholic, not a strict full blown, we weren't too involved in church life but in the Bible Belt like so I was saturated in super Baptist super Protestant Bible Belt
yeah,
Bible thumping South. And so anyways it's very interesting which I don't want to I want to be very careful with my words. It's very interesting to me which fault lines and distinctions and disputes are highlighted and emphasized and are seen through whatever certain perspective and lens from each denomination's angle. It's like Kale was mentioned or Kale and PVK were talking about PVK would get the EBGBs as a kid driving by a pastor by a Catholic church thinking they were idol worshipers because that's some of the indoctrination in their catechism from the Protestant.
yeah.
And like that's kind of what make me think of with the fasting. It's like there was something in you. I don't want to point fingers. I want to I can be kind of the put my foot in my mouth extroverted Catholic sometimes. But I want to be gentle and appropriate. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from what you're putting down is that your early church experience, whether that was a Protestant or whatever kind of experience, I don't. That's not really the point of it. Is that there was different aspects of like you said, fasting was just it wasn't even touched on, and maybe it was seen as odd and other, and it's like that fascinates me. That fascinates me.
Yeah, it definitely was. I
Well, let
remember
me just
getting in.
extend that. I'll
Yeah, go
extend
ahead.
it one more to your just to bring you into the divorce aspect is it reminds me of the messiness of and the complexity of a divorce, right? Of how those humans those complex humans interrelate. It's like, yeah, the denominations, they do this weird judging, distinctual dance. And that's all I got. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jason.
No, I was just confirming you. It definitely was that way. It was just like yeah, it's hard to say like I mean it's not just the fact that it wasn't done, like people didn't fast. It was just the fact that it was actually like frowned upon. It was basically thought of
Wow.
like You're just, which I mean, to be fair, like I should be fair about it. There is some truth to what they were saying. Like it was basically thought of as works. Like you can't fast to just get what you want or something like
You
that. And I
can't
think there
fast your
is,
way to salvation.
yeah, stuff like that. Or you can't fast to like twist God's arm to get
Okay.
your way. And I think there's some truth to that, but then at the same time, like I think that's partly true and partly false. Because I was talking to Cal about this recently. Like I feel like there is an aspect where like you give up physical food and you obviously get like some sort of material gain through it. Like, but there is, but that you see how you can fall into like some sort of trap in doing that. It's like, and I've
Yeah.
been like, I mean, even people hearing me talk would probably think that too, because like earlier I said I hate food. Like I'd rather just not eat because I've fallen in. I mean, I've fallen into that trap too, where like I literally think I cannot. I don't think I can think clear unless I'm on a fast. Like I really, really struggle with that now. Like I think I'm just not on my
So
game unless
funny.
I'm actually fasting. And so
You want to talk
there's
about?
a weird way like you can kind of get trapped in. You're kind of in a place of bondage. Then it's like I have to do this to get that. And so I think there was, to be fair, the churches I came from, I think were noticing that, but then it just was just so dismissed to where it was just completely lost. Like nobody,
Yeah.
nobody ever fasted. I started doing it. I was just like, it was just, I mean, I remember getting into like arguments where it was just people were getting mad at me. And I was like, why are you getting mad at me? Like, I'm not asking you to fast. I'm just, I'm just doing it because I'm seeing a benefit from it. Like, I don't, it was weird. But luckily that went away after a while. But I don't know.
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
And I like go ahead.
no, nothing. You go.
Oh,
I'm
I was
listening.
gonna say is I like the or not I like what sticks out to too is that messiness of what you said of what is the telos, what is the intention of a work, what is the intention of doing something good, and where my brain went is that if my goal of fasting is to get closer to God, then there is no, I'm not twisting God's arm at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the Pageauian prop. I mean, you can tell that my Christianity is firmly baked in Pajot. Um, anyway, it's the Pageauian move of like properly oriented, properly aimed at all things, all the works and all the creeds and all the assertions and all the scriptures. Like it all can be. It reminds me of all good is God. Is that all truth is God's truth and all good is God's good? I might be butchering a
Sure.
quote, fellas.
Well,
I might be
you're probably
butchering.
thinking of that scripture where Jesus says, "Why do
Okay,
you call me good? No one is good but God." He says something like
okay,
that. So
that could be it.
also,
That could be it.
look at this asshole. I'm just kidding. Straight, straight, Luke. That's why I'm invincible.
Hey,
I live
I
off
said
right,
his name
dude.
enough times in this damn stream. He showed up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he didn't come in when we were kissing his butt. Let's say mean things about him now.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
We need to
call him
tear him
Puke
down.
Thompson now.
Puke Thompson. Hey, Sherry,
Hi, Sherry.
up in
Oh
here.
gosh. Um, that's too funny. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, we'll talk about synchronicity.
Oh
I had a
yeah,
moment, man. I was stuffing my face the other day on this very couch, and I had a moment, a subconscious moment of like something's got to give. I've got to stop doing this. So maybe I need to hear this talk of fasting. Maybe I need to
I
get
don't know if
motivated
you.
so I can do a 30 days.
I,
Because go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, you finish.
Well,
Finish.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I know I've got Lent going on, but it's not really what I had chosen. Maybe I need to alter my Lent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always up for communal fast. I'm like live in the Protestant world, so they never happen. But if anybody ever wants to go on one, let me know and I'll hop on it with them. Um, but it's kind of too good. Like I don't know if some of it's Lent. I don't think it's just that because I mean Lent comes every year, but it seems like lately, at least this year, the past like month or so, maybe longer, the topic has seemed to come up a lot more about fasting from people that normally don't talk about it or like aren't or aren't Catholic or anything like that. Like even my mom
I
mentioned
think
it because there's some diet now, in like the beginning of the diet you do a fast so you can do a reset, and I think it's
yep.
called the reset
Well,
diet or something. And I was like, you don't know how long I've been saying this to you, but like now that she hears it from like someone
well,
else, I'm like,
I think
oh no, it makes
I think we're doing the beautiful TLC thing, right? I think we're exemplifying right now a little microcosm of the cultural discourse. I think we just put our finger on it in 10 minutes ago, and where we took this conversation, Jason, is I think that that kind of evolutionary biological lens that people have looked back upon some of our traditions, they've stumbled upon, like, hey, the ketosis kind of phenomenon. I mean, it's no secret that the ketosis diet is like this, phenomenon that's kind of taken, really looking into the rigorous science of how your body is, takes in
yeah,
nutrition, and the fuels that it's running on, whether it's glucose or fat. Yeah, I think it makes sense that you're seeing that pattern pop up. The cultural discourse would back engineer it, from there.
yeah,
At least in my
yeah.
head, it makes sense.
Yeah,
What
it's
fascinates
interesting. That's
me
why I wanted. That's
is
why I want to
your
get my friend on, like my friend Rebecca. Talk. Like I've asked her. I mean, it was years ago. I asked her if she'd want to do a podcast about it because I wanted to just pick her brain because she's the one that's done. Like me, like I said, the only research I've done on it has just been messing around. She's done like all the medical research. She knows actually what's happening in your body, how it affects your hormones. She's not only has researched it, but she's actually like done it. She's done long and fast. She had problems
did you do
eating, and then through that, she actually had problems like where she had to look up stuff on like what happened with hormones, like the differences between men and women fasting. Like she knows all that stuff, and I don't know any
whoa,
of it.
that's cool.
The
That's so
only,
cool.
the- yeah, the only thing like I will say this too. Like I mean, even now, I don't think I fast rightly. Like if anybody asked me honestly, I'm like, to be honest, I probably fast. My thing is like I like the mental clarity, so I'm probably fasting for that reason. Second might be physical, trying to watch my figure, and third is probably spiritual. But like
Yeah.
the reason I say that is because like when I first started fasting, it was all just like you said. I think it wasn't a works thing. It was literally I just want to know God. Like I just felt so freaking desperate. Like that's what I mean. Where I was when I said like the breakthroughs I think I've had theologically have come through fasting was because I was pursuing God with everything I knew how, and I was just like I just want to know God, and that's it. And so I would just fast and pray and fast with God, and that's I think the best way to fast. And so I wish I could always fast like that. But if I'm being totally honest, I'm like a lot of times I'm just doing probably mostly for the mental clarity is honestly.
Well, in
And then
life, life
then
doesn't.
probably for spiritual reasons. But
Well, and life doesn't work that way. You can't stay in the highs forever. To get
that's
to
true.
be in those highs, you must come down. You know what I mean? That's the nature of it. What fascinates me is kind of this sparkle that you have in your eye when you talk about it. Like it's really an aspect that you've taken to heart and taken serious. What and it strikes me, the question is, what have you done any meditating?
No, no, no. I
No,
need to
no.
like the Vervaeke style stuff like that. I probably
Yeah,
should do
yeah,
that.
exactly, exactly.
Uh,
Just or even, yeah, even just like simple. I think transcendental is a big kind of pop
I could.
culture one of just kind of the
I
hypnosis
don't know
by
what this is. This is
contemplating.
these alienating words we're talking about. What is this? What is this language? What is this
Hypnosis by
nonsense? Am I gonna have to get a dictionary? What the hell? Speak
I don't
English.
know, but
There you
I know what ketosis is, but he's schooling us on the hypnosis. We'll have to Google. But anyways, I said that because first of all, I just I definitely would think that some some of the stuff you've been describing, and what you get out of it, and what kind of tickles your fancy of it, I've heard kind of at least analogous things with super high end, super skilled
go.
meditators. I've
When
done some meditation, but I've never been that skilled at it. I've only had small, well-being phenomena.
when you're
But
doing
when I say that,
meditation,
with
are
that too,
you
is that I
go
would
ahead.
definitely encourage that conversation with your friend. I would be very interested in you two going back and forth about it.
Yeah, well, I guess I would um But I was gonna ask with the meditation thing, are you when you do your meditations, do you try to focus on something or is it more like clearing your mind? Are you like
Yeah, there's
listening
different
to
kinds. Yeah, there's
Okay.
definitely different kinds. The first one I did, this kind of synchronous again, was the first one is just is just more of a breathing one, just really just focusing centering on uh the phenomena of your breathing and just centering the self and kind of uh uh quieting everything around that notion and then when you steer off just kind of befriending yourself back to breathing and then there's other different methods of like really focusing on like outward love and stuff like that but for me now whereas how I've kind of melded it into a Christian kind of aspect um I mostly do a either a breathing either a breathing or love and compassion form of meditation. Like I go to church like an hour early, and so I just do it like an hour. Like so that's like my tried and true regimen. And then if I
Yeah.
get feeling all high on my high horse, I'll try or really it's just in a good schedule. Maybe I'll have one or two more throughout the week if I'm lucky. But I'll also say this is there's some early church act some
Uh, that-
interesting. Yeah, I think I think you could be opening up yourself to demons always, right? If we believe in these transpersonal agencies and whether they're good, aimed for God, being an angel, or moving away from God, being demons. I think we might be in a realm of angels and demons a lot more often than any of us think, Mr. Thompson. That's my little humble take on it. But
Mr. Thompson. Mr.
yeah, but I would say yeah, and I did want to also emphasis like dude, I've been on a meditation journey for probably 5 years now, and I
Oh wow.
still that's on and off well, and I still like I've never had like I've taken psychedelics. I've never had psychedelic experience. What I get the phenomenological description I would give to you is I get a kind of a physiological reset where I can kind of feel a little bit cleaner and a little bit more in touch with my physiology. And that's when I hit a home run on a meditation set as I come out. Some of them I come out with like, what the hell did I do?
Where you opened yourself up to those demons.
Yeah, exactly. Or
It's
why did I
interesting.
let my ADHD just run for
Like
10 minutes?
I've probably done like subtle aspects of meditation, like not really even intentionally knowing I was meditating, like things like this, like praying the rosary
Yes.
or something. I think, and like
Yeah.
reciting scripture and things like that. I heard once someone said a long time ago that um when you was that what I can't remember the word mutter or something is like related to I don't know what where I heard this because it wouldn't even make sense thinking of the English language, but they were talking about like cows chewing the cud. That's actually kind of like meditating, like you're saying something over and over and over. Like if you think of someone just like reciting a scripture, it's like they're
Mhm.
chewing on it, just chewing on it over and over,
Interesting.
and they're chewing the
Interesting.
cud. I think they were relating it to like the clean animals in Leviticus, like the clean animals that you are allowed to eat
Wow.
as a Jew are those that chew the cud that are
Okay.
that look
I
like
didn't
sitting
see
there
I
uttering.
didn't see you coming in with that angle, but that's interesting. That's very
Eh,
interesting.
so
I do love the I'm guilty. I use the chew metaphor often for I use chew, I use wrestle. That's something I'm and I also love you, Luke. And I also
You're
I
just
think
fun.
we're very right in this day and age, and I think just even I think even philosophically to stretch and push on those borders and boundaries of the category of meditation. I think you're absolutely right. I think certain task and flow states of some of my best and deepest thoughts, man. When I was when I'm really doing well and in shape is like when I'm running 2.5 miles a day, or if I'm shooting basketball every
Oh,
day.
right.
Basketball is one of my life hacks to getting into the flow state. Just
Nice.
give me 90 seconds of dribbling around on a half court or on a full court basketball court, and I can get to the flow state quickly. And I say that is because all that does is that not all that does, but one of the things that does is that speeds up that fluency, that spins up that fluency of cognition. And I certainly could typologically equate, analogically, describe those phenomenon as, very near to meditative states.
Yeah. Yeah. Is
Contemplative
that
would be better, right? Contemplative, looking out, thinking about more. Where meditative is more of, traditionally the Eastern is more of like the inner, trying to clear all out, trying to focus.
yeah. I feel like I'm the same way when I walk. Like if I can go on a long walk or something, I can kind of get there where I can think
Hey,
think clear
there's
and
there's cutting edge science on that. I
really.
wanna be careful what I say here, but yeah, I'm almost positive there's cutting edge studies on. Uh, Man, I'm at my edge here, so just take this as speculation. But I'm gonna
Go drink
gesture
some
towards
Diet
what I
Dew,
think.
man. It'll pick you up.
I'm gonna gesture at what I think the cutting edge science was articulating. But anyways, I will say this. I'll stand here on some firm ground. I think there's some cutting edge scientific studies on the benefits of walking for your what I say clarity of cognition, maybe problem solving. I'm not exactly sure how they would have evaluated it. Anyways, and so what I'm thinking is my intuition is that the embodied, and look, this is all very natural TLC stuff right here, is that the embodied, the engagement of your total body in a walking process is going to fire off the different layers and levels of your brain to to stimulate a more holistic kind of cognitive experience, to where, yeah, it makes total sense that, walking is good for thinking. It totally makes sense. We've been walking for millennia. We've been walking and thinking for
Yeah.
millennia.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always helped me. I don't think I realized it until, I mean, I wish I would have realized it earlier in life because like I was talking to someone recently and I said um I would never read because I just didn't think I could. I didn't think I had any reading comprehension skills, and so I never read anything growing up until I finally got, like, it was within literally, I mean, the past probably 8 years, maybe at the most. Then I realized if I was out walking and reading to myself out loud, those two things both, I would remember more. Like I always read to myself out loud, almost always, at least under my breath. And then, because otherwise it's just like I scan the page, I don't remember it. But if I'm walking, and it helps me so much remember things. And yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Helps
Interesting.
me think
Yeah, that
too.
takes me that takes me to the notion of reading styles evolving, and that reading aloud and the oral tradition, just the spoken word is
Yeah,
it's much more innate and inherent in the human experience than any kind of, like you said, you know alone reading out of a book. And it also reminded me too of and I don't want to push Sherry's comment too far. From what I remember, boy, God bless me if I was misappropriating this to Sherry, but I remember recently hearing some
John Bell,
love you,
get in here. I'm
I remember
listening. I'm listening,
hearing her
bro.
say something about. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I'm listening to you. I was telling John to get in here because he
Well,
commented.
I remember Sherry saying something about she didn't, in certain, like, I think, scientific or psychological aspects. She didn't read a lot of, like, technical doctoral or scholarly kind of literature on these certain phenomena. And I think she was saying because it reserved her kind of her it was let me just be very gentle here, and it reserved, like, kind of her uh innate perspective, where she was already coming from on these things, where she had already kind of accumulated this wisdom. And so, she didn't want to have that kind of and anyways, I think there's a wisdom in that. And I think there's a kind of an analogous thing on what you were saying with, like, you didn't need to have the strict sit down by yourself, quiet in the head reading. What you were getting at was a different kind of take on it. Was this, I'm going to go walk outside, I'm going to read aloud, I'm going to speak it, I'm going to say it aloud. I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I just
there's
didn't.
probably wisdom in that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I just didn't. I mean, it just doesn't work for me usually sitting and reading. Like I can do it in here. I've gotten a lot better at it, and I can like if I'm sitting by myself, I can read out loud and stuff. But if I'm not reading out loud, I probably won't remember anything I read. I struggle to remember stuff anyway. Like I'll have to read things over and over and over, which is, gosh, it's like a blessing and a curse, because like that's why, like, when you were even talking about Bible illiteracy, you feel like you're Bible literate. I'm like, I always feel like I'm Bible illiterate because I'm just like, I feel like when it, like, people think I know the Bible like cover to cover, and I'm like, I don't. Like, half the time when I'm trying to remember it, it's just not there. Like, I can't even bring it up. And then other times it's like it just comes to you or something. But I always feel like I'm just gonna
Well,
forget it or something. Like, even with Fantastes, I love that book. I've probably read it 4 times just because every time I read it, I'm like, I've totally forgot this part. Like, I just feel like I forget stuff all the time. So,
I
like I
don't
said,
want
it's
to.
probably a blessing and a curse because it causes me to really, things that I find that I like, it causes me to read them like over and over, which is probably a
Interesting,
good thing.
interesting.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
the repetition,
do you have
the
anything
attention.
what's the your favorite thing that you've ever read? You got any favorite book or anything like that?
Gosh, my favorite thing I've ever read. That's a great one. That's a great one. I would probably have to say, I'd probably have to say, well, I might have to say that what I quoted here is either, I did like Dominion. Dominion shook my whole world up, man. Dominion was such a, and because it's such a, scholarly kind of, bona
Yeah,
fide book. But no, I would probably
by
say,
that's the one by
my
the
favorite.
guy from Rest is History, right?
Yes, yes, Tom Holland, Tom
Okay,
Holland.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
no. I would probably have to say the Plotinus's Enneads, or maybe like I said, what we were talking about earlier, Saint Gregory of Nyssa. Um, either his Life of Moses, or maybe his is it the Creation of Man, or On the Creation of Man. Um, there's some badass philosophical, political stuff I've read, but I mean, if you're gonna put on the all time great, I mean, you put me on the spot with the all time greatest, so that's what I have to. That's where I definitely would have to go. Um, Dang,
Have you
I
ever
had
read
another
Calvin and
thought.
Hobbes?
No, I haven't. I haven't. But the where I used to live in Jacksonville, there was a big Calvin and Hobbes mural on the side of a building, though.
No way.
I'm familiar with the pop culture character.
Nice. Good.
Um,
That's all I read growing up was Calvin and Hobbes.
oh, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. Is I didn't want to blow too much. I didn't want to, just shower you with too much compliments. But some of this stuff can be, just relative, and when I'm in TLC, I mean, and you're one of the people, Jay, is, yeah, the biblical knowledge here is. I mean, you can say you struggle, and I understand that. And I believe you mean that. I also think you're probably just innately humble, but also I think you probably still believe that. But my point is, yeah, man, to someone like me, it's like, man, yeah, TLC can be very intimidating in that realm. And then especially to someone who's like this, fresh coming back to Christianity, who's like, okay, so I'm also, dealing and wrestling with the fact of like the Bible is this centerpiece of this worldview that I'm embodying and practicing and believing in. It's like there's an intimidating factor to that, and then now I'm also in this community where all these people have already given that so much care and attention. It's like, anyways, it's definitely a hurdle on my horizon. I gotta get down to it.
Yeah, I don't ever want that's I mean, well, thank you for the compliment. Like, the other thing, like, I don't ever want people to feel like that either, because that's what I mean when you said you feel behind. I'm like, we're all behind when it comes to
Oh,
biblical
yeah,
literacy. And it's weird too,
yeah.
is like people, like, I literally said I didn't read my Bible till what, like, maybe 7 years ago might have been the first time I read it. I've had one my whole life. But then even that, like, growing up with people and like pastors and churches and everything, and growing up in the churches, it's like, because I was reading it all the time, it's like all of a sudden it, like, basically it just became this Bible nerd. And I don't mind that at all, but it's weird because it's I I feel like I've probably read it more times than a lot of people I know. and it's just kind of that was kind of strange to me to discover that because I was just like I just didn't
Question
read
for
it
you.
first of all because well it's just weird because people that are like in the Christian tradition, um, it was strange to me how little it actually how little of attention it actually gets. Like it gets attention like on Sunday and maybe some private like stuff here and there, but then I'm not trying to talk like down on people like that at all. But it's just it was that's one thing that was kind of that still kind of I don't want to say it's frustrating because that's not the right word, but it's like if people start looking at me like, "Oh, Jason knows the Bible better than I do." It's just kind of I don't want to give off that vibe. Like I really hate giving off that vibe. I think because well, I don't know that I hate it, but it's gosh, I can't even write language around it. I don't ever
Well,
want people to
well,
feel like they need to shut up. They're like, "Oh, Jason
I
knows
hear
this
you.
better than I do, so I have nothing to say." Because it's like
I hear,
yeah,
I hear you. I think you're I think more so the phenomenon we're touching upon right now is you're a humble good guy. It's like because it's like high hierarchies exist. I mean, the relation the relations exist. Like I'm this Christian, this supposed Christian who has this very limited biblical knowledge. You are this other Christian who you identify as yeah, you're this other Christian who has this certain amount of biblical knowledge. It's like it's just that's just the way it's going to be. And so if anything, there's a dynamic there of like yeah, you and by the way, I think you do it beautifully and gracefully. I want to enjoy your company so much. If you didn't have that humility, but also it's like uh there's going to be this
I don't
dynamic of go ahead.
I guess I should say I don't want people feeling like I'm gonna give them a Bible smackdown or something. Like I hate that, you know. Like
No, I don't. And
that's what
no,
I mean. I guess that's what I kind of
and
mean
that's
is
what
like
I'm getting at. Like
I've seen people do that before, and it's like I hate when it's I don't like when it's used that way, and I feel like it can easily fall into that too, especially if you get into like debates of scripture and things like that. I don't know.
well,
It's just
and I would also say I think that's probably like super antithetical, right, to like Jesus' teaching, right? I don't think
yeah,
Jesus would ever be wanting his message to be being wielded for some kind of like, debate
yeah.
style victory. But no, I know that's what I
Honestly,
was.
like, one of the main reason I started reading it is because I wanted to know God. That was the main reason, and then another thing, I in the Protestant circles I grew up in, you know, you've probably heard that language too of, like, where God told me this or God told me that, you know? Like, have you ever heard someone say that? Where God speak to
Mhm,
them? And
mhm.
I honestly, I had no idea what that meant. Entire life, I just thought, God just doesn't talk to me. Like, that's cool he talks to you, but God's never said anything to me. And then when I started reading scriptures, then it felt like God was actually finally talking to me, and so I think that's
Yeah,
one of the reasons I just kept reading them over and over because it finally felt like
that's
God was
beautiful.
actually speaking to me. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm gonna leave it on that one. I like how you left it
Yeah.
on that one. I got to get to bed soon, so
Alright,
all right, buddy.
pussy. Go to bed.
Hey, I will say, just to put a bow on that is that's where I was getting at. Is that I think you do that well. I think most people in TLC do that well. Uh, it's just, I mean, I think it definitely and maybe it's more. It could just be a projection of me, right? Is that this inferiority complex that I'm coming into this
Dude,
space where there is this kind of this Christian tone, and it's like, hey, man, I'm like you said, I think it's beautiful, and I think you do mean it. We're all behind, but I feel especially behind. I guess is all I was gonna say.
well, if you read it once, you're caught up.
Right?
You don't even
Amen.
have to
And I'm
read
gonna get
once,
on it.
really. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you really don't even have to, like, some people will study, like, one book. Like, you find the ones that kinda speak you and
Right?
then just yeah,
Well, that's another part of it, right? That's another intimidating factor, right? Minds much more brilliant than me have spent their whole life
on one thing.
meditating and writing on, a line, a verse, a chapter. It's like it's
Yeah.
nuts. It was all right, buddy. I do really
Well,
got to go. I
hey,
love you, man.
before yeah, before do you got
Go
time for
ahead.
like a few questions, like 3 questions, real quick?
Go
Because I
ahead, buddy.
never like we never because I never even really got to like interview you. We just kind of jumped into conversations all the time.
We'll
But
do plenty more of
well,
these. We'll do plenty more
let
of these.
me
But go ahead.
because I'm curious about these. All right, so and since it's going, then other people get to know too. Because these are questions I like to ask people. So do you have? We already did the favorite book thing, but do you have a favorite Disney movie?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Let's hear it. Let's hear
Yeah. It's gonna be Fox and the Hound, and then probably right under that Robin Hood, and then maybe right under that Lion King.
it. Nice, nice. That's great, man.
Yeah,
And well, I guess
we were a big Disney family, so yeah.
sweet. Yeah, those are good ones too. So, all right. Well, that's. I'll ask you other ones later. I don't know. They're just.
Uh,
They'll come up. They'll
All
come
right,
up.
yeah, dude. Hey, we're definitely gonna do more of this.
Yeah, we're always gonna chat.
I would have jumped on this weekend with. What did you do Sunday? I took a nap Sunday after. Right, literally, I laid down right as you said, "Hey," on our chat. You're like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna jump on." I laid. I woke up at the end of
Oh
the
yeah.
stream. So maybe,
That's awesome.
maybe the next one on this weekend or the next weekend. But I love you, buddy.
All right. Yeah, thanks for hopping on here. It's great talking to you. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
you
See ya.
too.
All right. Matthew's gone. I'm all alone again. I'm just trying to finish up this rosary. If anyone wants to hop on, maybe I'll stick around for a little more. First of all, let's see. If Jason doesn't read out loud, I don't believe he can read. Yeah, but even when I read out loud, it's pretty unbearable. David, what's up? Man, how's it going? What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Oh, sure. This is what I mean. It is Wednesday today. I always forget. So, judges happening again tomorrow. I will be there if I'm not crammed working. So we'll see. But if I'm not there, everybody else should definitely tune in. Usually, if I'm working, like or if I'm out, because it's the middle of the day. But even if I'm out, like I'll try to hop on my phone. But that did not work last week. I was trying to, and it wouldn't let me in. Um, that I almost started reading Ruth today too. I thought, man, maybe I could read Ruth when I started this stream, but then I'm pretty sure I heard you mention that you were planning on going into Ruth straight after you finished up Judges. But I really want I'm hoping to be there tomorrow because I think you're doing the story. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Judges tomorrow. But on Jephthah. That's probably like my favorite story in all of Judges. It's just so controversial. Well, that's not the reason why, but it's I like that it is kind of somewhat controversial. Although it seems pretty unanimous, people think he was a bad dude. But I'm usually kind of on Jephthah's side, and I think some of it's because of that verse I read in Ecclesiastes today too. Better to make like when you make a vow to God, do not delay to pay it. Better to not vow than to vow and not pay. Um, So yeah, I think it was a rash vow, but I love that story though. I love the story. So even if I'm not there, I think the main reason I like it is there's this weird thing going on with to me it seems like there's something weird going on with identity. Because like, you know, starts with a harlot. Um he's kind of has he has no father, so he has no head. Then he becomes their head, and then it ends with a virgin, the sacrifice of a virgin. There's something in there. That's all I'll say. I don't really know the rest of it, but hopefully I'll be there tomorrow. We can dig into that. David's a great dude. Luke, Luke's a good guy too. You know, I'm not making fishing lures. I don't know how to fish. No, I'm making a rosary. Do you want one? Let me know if you want one, although you're Orthodox, so they might get mad at you because these are Catholic ones. I don't know how to make Orthodox ones. I need to learn how to make the prayer knots. I think is what Orthodox does. They do prayer knots, and it looks extremely complicated. Well, I've never seen someone do it, so it might be really easy. But I've looked at the knots, and it looks weird. So I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Luke usually takes a naps during my streams. That's nice. It's because my voice is so melodic and charming. And I guess your favorite is Little Mermaid. We should talk about that. That's an interesting one. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on that, but that's one that always interests me. Anyway, Yeah, I'd love to do more streams on Disney movies. That's always fun. All right, well, I'm gonna end this and finish my rosary. I got these little. So I don't know if you can see this too. I ordered these little Jesuses, and they look extremely derpy, and I just love it. Like I don't know if you can see the face. Get up there. Get up there. Get up there. Where's my camera at exactly? Get up there. You see that? You see what that looks? Anyway, this is how I'm gonna end the stream because this is awkward. Bye, everybody.